Hi everybody, my name's Warren. Welcome back to the Intro to SQL course. Okay, in this video we're going to look at dates and date formatting. So what I'll do, I'll just paste this info in here. There's a lot of information around dates and formatting of dates, and it's a really important feature in SQL because whenever you're doing any form of data analysis, there will always be a date range you need to look at, or you'll get data where the date column is in a weird format, or you'll need to aggregate data by month, by year, by week, quarter, etc. So it's very, very important to understand date functions and how they work. So that's what we're going to do in this video. So I've pasted them all down here. There are a lot of date functions, but these I think are the main ones that I've covered. So get date is the main date function you're going to use, and if you just go select get date, it brings back today's date. So that is what get date is. Down here I've put a couple of other date functions. We'll go into them in detail. You've got get date that returns the current date of the system. You've got date add. This is where you can add or subtract a specific time interval. So you can either add or subtract. Date diff calculates the difference between two dates. So this add is to add dates or subtract dates. This is to work out the difference between two dates. So you might have, you might need to work out the number of days between the current date and the last time a customer purchased something to see if, the customers are being retained. You can use date diff to do that. You would get date to get today's date. You'd get their most recent transaction date, and you would do a difference between those two, and that would give you the number of days or months, however you define it, from the last time you saw them. Date part, these are quite specific. That extracts a part of a date. So you might have a column that has the year, month, and date, and you only need the year. You can use date part to pull out only the year. Date name returns a specific part, meaning year, month, day, hour of a date. Convert, you can use convert to change a date and time from one format to another. Format, again, you can use that to format a particular column to a specific format that you want. Date from parts, we'll show you an example of that, and date time to from parts, we'll show you an example of that. So what I've done here, I've gone and I've given some examples. So to get a date in 10 days time, so how would we do that? I'm taking it, sorry, that is not the correct thing. Let me take that out for now. Here we want to add 1 year to this year here, and you can see the output should be 2023 because that's what we want to do. We want to add a year. So if we run that, you can see it comes back 2023-03-05. And the reason we're doing that is we're saying date add. What do we want to add? This can be year, month, day. We want to work in years, and we want to add 1. We can also go subtract 1. That goes 1 year back. So this is quite handy. You can go back and forward in time by year, month, date, quarter, etc. from any given date, and it gives you the ability to add or subtract time. This year, we might not want to use this fixed date. We might want to use get date. So let's grab get date. That's going to say go back 1 year from the current date. And there you can see it's gone back 1. We're now on the 7th. It's gone back a year. Or we can go, back a month or a day. So you can do whatever you want with this formula. So that's date add. Here we're looking at quarters. Here we looked at years. We want to go back 2 quarters. So we're subtracting 2 quarters there. So we run that, execute that. That would be 2 quarters back from this date. Here we want to get 3 months ahead of today's date. So we're adding using date add, which we can use to add or subtract. We're working in months. We want to go 3 months ahead of the current date. There you can see the 7th of the 6th month. Here we want to go back in time. We want to go back 7 days. So we want to go back a week from this date here. Execute that. That's a week ago, the 26th. So that's correct. Here we can work out the difference between 2 days. And you'll normally find you might have shipping date to invoice date. You want to work out lead times on any process. You'll always have date and timestamps in a system and in your data. You're always going to want to work out the lead time between dates, and that could be 2 fixed dates, or it could be an aging query where you want to age something from today to the date it was invoiced, or from today when the expected delivery date is. So you can use date diff. That takes the difference. Again, you can use day, month, quarter, etc. But we're looking at days. That's 10 days between those two. It's the 5th to the 15th. Date part. Here we can extract a certain part. We have a full date. We only want to extract the year. Remember, date part extracts a part of the date. We want the year. It brings back the year. You might want to group your data by years, but you have a full date field. You can use date part to pull only the year. Here, date name. That gives us the actual name of the month. We're looking at the month of this date. So extract the month. Convert. This is going to convert the date to a varchar. That's now a varchar format. Here we can say get date and put it into this format. Tuesday, March the 7th, 2023, and this is the time. So that's quite handy if you want a full timestamp. Here you got select date from parts. So you've got one part is the year, one part is the month, and one part is the day. It combines it into one date column. Often you might get data that has a year column, a month column, and a separate day column. You can use the column names in here to get the date into one column. And this is date from parts. Again, this here requires additional arguments. Okay, I've got something not working here. This is very similar to this previous one I showed you. I don't usually use this, but this actually brings through, it includes the time. So here you have your date, month, day. You have your 1330 is your hours, minutes, seconds, and fractional seconds. But that is not loving laugh today. But anyway, it's very seldom you're going to use that. These are the more common ones at the top here. So this is an overview of how you would be able to calculate using dates and be able to change formats using dates. And often you wouldn't be referring to a static date, but you would be referring to the current date if you used get date, or a date column. So like in our sales transaction, you would be doing a formula on the transaction date column. So if we went back here, maybe we wanted to, let's go back and just extract the year, for instance, date part year. Here, we could do, let me just go down here, let's get this down. At the date part year, we're going to take the transaction date and replace this here with the transaction date, and we will get the transaction ID. Maybe we only want the year for every transaction. And if we run that, you can see it's pulled the year only. So you can actually run it on a date column. It doesn't have to be either today's date, get date, or a fixed date. You can actually run it on a column. And all of these, you could replace the example I've put in with a column, a date column. So date diff between, certain dates. So if we have a look here, we could also use date diff. So let's go and grab our date diff here. So these two dates here, we could do exactly the same in this query here. We could say we want the difference between the transaction date and today's date. That would be a practical example. This would be get date. My mouse doesn't want to work. Get date. Diff and transaction ID. Okay, just to give it a field that you want to look at. And we could say I want it in days between today's date and that data there. All right. Let me have a look and see. Invalid column name transaction ID. I'm not selecting from anything. Sorry, I'm having a moment. I need to pull from a table, right? So there we go. And there's the number of days from the date in the data to today's date. And every day you ran that, it would recalculate this from that day. So that's where it's quite handy to have SQL, because it'll automatically calculate it from the current date, because we've got get date here. So that, in a nutshell, is the date functions. They're very, very powerful, and you will come across them because all the data you'll use will have a date field, and you will need to do these kind of date diff, date part, and get date functions to make sense of the data. So in the next video, we're going to start looking at aggregating the data, averaging, summing, counting, etc. So I will see you in the next video. Thank you.